Hello, everyone. I see there are 4 people here, but I can't see who they are. I'm going to wait like 30 more seconds and then we'll start. We're going to start our first ever Facebook live show. That's exciting. Okay, so it looks to be 7:47 and we're going to get started. So first, because I'm a lawyer, I have to do some disclaimers. The first one is this is general information. It is not legal advice that is intended to solve your specific problem or your specific situation. So tonight we're just going to be doing general information about supervised visitation. If you have a specific question, please ask your questions over there in the comments. I can see them. I'll be answering your questions. And lastly, I have to tell you that this conversation that we are having does not establish any kind of legal relationship between you and I. It doesn't make us client and attorney, but it does make us friends. Okay. Again, don't forget to leave your questions live in the box, and we're going to answer them tonight. So I wrote notes. That's why I keep looking down. We're going to start talking about supervised visitation. So what is supervised visitation? Supervised visitation is when you have a parent who can't, for whatever reason, be alone with their minor child, and they need a person to supervise their visitation. That person can be a family member. That person can be a stranger who is qualified to supervise a visit. So I often have people who call me because we do a lot of custody cases in our office. We probably do more custody and visitation cases than we do divorces. So I often have the phone calls where people say, I want him to have supervised visitation. And then I ask why, and the reason is just because they don't feel comfortable with the other parent having visitation. I'm going to use the example of a guy having visitation because let's just face it, most often men have visitation and women kind of don't. I only have a couple cases where I have a woman who is ordered to have visitation with their child who doesn't have physical custody. So the first thing that we need to start with is the premise that a parent is entitled to visitation with their child unsupervised. So the first thing you got to understand is if you don't want a person to have unsupervised visitation, you're starting on defense. You're playing defense out the gate. You have to show to the court pretty much why this person doesn't deserve to have the visits that are unsupervised with their child. So if I ask a person, well, what are the reasons why you want somebody to have supervised visits? The first one is probably going to be he doesn't know her or he doesn't know him. That might get you 1 or 2 supervised visits. It's going to get you some transitional visits, but supervised visits aren't meant to be forever because you have a parent who's not familiar with a child. And sometimes, depending on how young the child is, it's not going to even matter whether they have an established parent-child relationship. The father is going to be entitled to the visitation. Other reasons people tell me all the time would be, he smokes marijuana. Then my next question is going to be, do you smoke marijuana? They're always going to say, I think we need a drug screen. So you need to understand, if you ask for a drug screen, everybody's getting drug screened. And so you need to have a reason why you're asking for that drug screen if you want supervised visitation. Another reason, some people will tell me, well, there's an order of protection between he and I. that doesn't affect his visitation with the child. If there's not an order of protection between him and the child, he's still entitled to visit with his minor child. And the last one is, he did something to some kids. She said that he touched her. You're gonna really need to have some significant proof of that. Otherwise, you're gonna be venturing into territory that you don't want to be in. That might not end well for you at the end of the day. So a lot of people tend to think that when we go to court and we ask for supervised visit, we just have to show that, well, he's just not really good to be around the kid. He's just not really a good guy. Let me tell you something. There are plenty of good guys. There are plenty of bad guys. There are plenty of narcissists. There are plenty of people that nobody likes that are out there raising kids. Those just aren't going to be reasons. So what do you have to show to a court? This is important. What you have to show to a court, if you, like the pastor says in church, if you're taking notes, write this down. You have to show in Tennessee that unsupervised visit is likely to endanger your child's physical or emotional health. That's a big hurdle that you have to jump. Unsupervised visitation is likely to endanger your child's physical health or his or her emotional health. In Mississippi, because we do also practice in Mississippi, a court can award visitation by a parent who committed domestic violence if the visitation is supervised. So if you have a domestic violence issue that's not just between you and the father, you have a domestic violence issue that's between the father and the child, then the court can award supervised visits for that person to be able to visit with his child. The court has to always consider the child's safety. The court always has to consider whether there is a substantial harm. So you have to go into court with your attorney and you have to show it is unhealthy for him to visit with this child that's not unsupervised. It is a danger to this child for him to visit unsupervised. The court, I want you to consider my child's safety. My child's not going to be safe with him. My child is going to suffer some kind of substantial harm if they are made to attend a visit with him that is not supervised. The court also is going to have to do a best interest of analysis, which means what's in the best interest of the child? Is unsupervised visitation in the best interest of the child at this point, or is supervised visitation in the best interest of the child at this point? I'm just going to tell you because I don't really pull punches and I don't like to waste people's time. It's kind of hard to get supervised visits unless you have some significant evidence that something is going to happen to your child. So let me see. I've gotten supervised visits before and I'm telling you this because we often have clients and they say, when the judge hears this, they're gonna have to give me supervised visits. You gotta understand your audience, people. We're talking to a judge who sees these kinds of things every day, over and over. So something that is shocking to your conscience is probably not going to be shocking to theirs. You're going to have significant evidence. So I'll give you some examples. And there are some lawyers who are watching live, and they might be able to give you some examples of times when they were able to get supervised visits awarded. So chime in. One time I got supervised visits when a parent had been being allowed to have unsupervised visits. But we uncovered some video that the father, who is an aspiring rapper, and there's nothing wrong with that, rap on. He was an aspiring rapper and he made rap videos. Also, not a problem with that. Make all the videos that you want outside of the presence of your child. However, if you're going to make rap videos, don't have your 5-year-old in the rap video with your marijuana and your money and your scissor, because then we're going to think you probably shouldn't be alone with the kid because you're going to put them in rap videos. So until you learn how to fix that behavior, we're going to let your visits be supervised. That's kind of bad. I also got supervised visits recently, like at the beginning of this month, when I had a client who was an eyewitness to, this is important, she was an eyewitness to some inappropriate sexual behavior between between the father and his other daughter. I won't tell you specifically what happened, but it was kind of like a pearl clutching situation, the things that she saw. And in addition to her seeing that specific thing, she also had evidence that he was putting the child in danger, his other child in danger, by driving fast in the car. He had all these speeding tickets, and there are several instances where he would be like on FaceTime or some kind of social media chat. So he's chatting while he's driving, while he's got the other child in the back seat. In addition to the evidence that we have about his sexual behavior with the other child, in addition to some other evidence we have. So you're going to have to kind of pile it on, and it's going to have to be accurate. In that case that I just described, what the court did was appoint a guardian for the child. And in the meanwhile, while the child is having a guardian, the father gets supervised visits. Now, keep in mind also, supervised visits, they are not meant to last forever. We are carving out a situation where your child is going to be able to visit with their parent from now until the time they reach, in Tennessee, 18, and in Mississippi, 21. So we're not going to have a 17-year-old on supervised visits. We're just trying to get supervised visits to a point where the court is sure that the child is safe and that supervised visits is in the best interest of the child, for them to see their father, or in some cases their mother, alone. Drug use is a reason for supervised visits, but y'all, marijuana sometimes just don't cut it. Just don't tell you. I mean, you know, it's marijuana these days. So, okay, Beth is saying that she's gotten supervised visits ordered due to severe mental illness of a parent and related emotional abuse. So that's also a good reason. If you have a parent who is severely mentally ill, sometimes you can ask for a mental examination. That gets kind of costly, but if it's necessary, you want to talk to your lawyer about doing a mental evaluation on the other parent for the purposes of finding out if they're even able to exercise visits with the minor child. Sometimes it does get so technical that we have to have therapists come to court and testify. We have to have their doctors come to court. You have to have witnesses. So we're talking about supervised visitation in a lot of situations where it is imperative that we are going to try to protect this child, because we have overwhelming reasons why this child should not be left alone with the other parent. We're not talking about a situation where she just says she didn't want to go. Every time she has to go with her dad, she cries. They always do. Every time she says that her dad is never there and his wife is there. That's not a reason for supervised visits. Like I said, you need to be able to prove that your child's endangered, is unsafe, is unhealthy for them to have visitation with another parent that's unsupervised. Oh yes, Megan. In Mississippi, Mississippi doesn't really have parenting plans like Tennessee does. We just have court order. But yeah, in Mississippi, visitation lasts until the age of 21, and child support lasts until the age of 21 in Mississippi. In Tennessee, for those of you all who are listening, it ends when the child turns 18 and graduates from high school. So if you have a child that graduates from high school in May and they turn 18 in June, then it ends in June. So very significant difference there. There is a 3-year difference in Mississippi and Tennessee in the time when you can have visitation when it stops and child support stops. Just to give you another situation where I asked, I'll just go to the one that Beth is talking about. The kids were unsupervised while the mom and dad smoked meth in the house. We're going to need you to be supervised if you're going to smoke meth in the house around the kids. We're going to need somebody to watch you to make sure you're not just smoking meth with those kids all the time. So those are some situations where we are going to have some serious issues with a parent having visitation. One question is, after the child is 18, couldn't they just refuse to go? To be honest, yeah, they could just say, I'm not going, but the court order doesn't go to the child. You know, we always have to remember the court order goes to the parent, and the parents have to enforce the court order. I don't know a lot of parents that will enforce court orders when children turn 18 or when they get up in age, because they have so much other stuff to do. But I have had some cases where a dad is saying, hey, my child is 20, I'm supposed to have, I mean, this is kind of ridiculous, but you know, it is what it is. And then the judge does what's in the best interest of the child. But mostly the age, we're not going to have too many fights over visitation when the child turns 17, 18, 19. We are going to have fights over the child support at that point. Let's see. Oh, in Mississippi also, a court can award supervised visits when there is a credible risk that the child is going to be abducted. Not just like he needs supervised visitation because he bring him home late from Uncle Juju's house every Sunday. He hasn't been abducted. He's just late coming back. So he doesn't need to be supervised. He just needs to bring him back on time. A credible risk of abduction is he got passports behind my back and I found some plane tickets to Italy. Then we're going to want you to have supervised visits so we can make sure that you're not going to run with this child and the mom is never going to be able to find them again. Let's go back to what I told you guys earlier about your impression on the judge. That's important because supervised visits are awarded at the court's discretion. Judges have wide discretion in awarding supervised visits or unsupervised visits. So even if I have a client who thinks when the judge hears this, there's no way that I'm going to lose, I have to think of all the ways that that's what you're saying is going to be interpreted to the judge, weighed against what the judge sees every day and what the judge thinks might be a serious situation. You want to take your attorney's advice on this. My job, our job as attorneys is to represent you as the client. That doesn't always mean that we're going to agree with you. And that doesn't always mean that we're going to have to go into court and say whatever it is that you want us to say, because we can discern that sometimes that might get you in trouble. So there are some things that we don't need to say to the judge. There's some evidence that we don't need to put before the judge. There's almost never a time when I want a client to talk to a judge, even though we have clients all the time that say, if I could just explain. Sometimes just let me explain. Might be better. Okay. Supervised visits, we talked about those. Transitional visits are when we have kind of like a stair step. We just want to we want to step a child into visitation. So we might start with 4 supervised visits and then move on to unsupervised visits and then move on to all-day visits and then move on to 1 overnight and then gradually put a parent in a schedule where they have a standard visitation schedule with the child. So supervised visits is one thing, but again, supervised visits aren't ever meant to last forever. They are meant for a specific time. So what are your options for supervised visits? Because we have people who have been awarded supervised visits, but they don't want the other person's parent to supervise. They don't want their aunts to supervise. They want a neutral person. There are some agencies out there, I have one of them, that provides people to supervise visits for parents. My agency is called Supervised. So please give us a call if you have a situation where you need someone to supervise your visit. We're very inexpensive as well. There are other options out there, but a court can tell you who can supervise a visit for you. You can agree on a person to supervise a visit. Supervised visits can be overnight. So you can say his mom is going to supervise the visit, but he has to be at his mom's house all the time. If his mom supervises the visit, she can't let them out of her sight. So you're going to want to bring in the person who is supervising the visit, because they're going to be subject to the court's order too. So you don't want to say in court without the grandmother there, you don't want to say visitation is going to be supervised by his mother. And then his mother doesn't know anything about it. And then she's like, I play bingo every Saturday at 7, so I'm not going to be able to do it. Don't do grandma like that. Find another person to supervise if she's not there and she doesn't agree, even though both of you agree. Okay. Any more questions? Because I think I'm pretty much done. Again, let's go back to the disclaimer. This is general information. It is not legal advice intended to solve your specific situation. And it does not establish an attorney-client relationship. Okay, I think that's it. We're gonna try to stick to around 20 or 25 minutes here on these Facebook Live shows. So if you have any questions, oh wait, Megan has a question. Do you think it's sometimes held against a parent that they ask for the other parent to be supervised when the court feels it's not necessary? Yeah, I do. Sometimes I do, and I'll tell my client that. Like, if the reasons that you want the visit to be supervised are just like these superficial reasons that we just discussed, like, well, she doesn't want to go, and I think that I heard from so-and-so that they saw on Facebook that he smoked marijuana, or he was at the club, or he got this girlfriend one weekend, he got this girlfriend the next weekend. Not really reasons for supervised visit. He and I don't get along. There's an order of protection, not a reason for a supervised visit. Unless you can show that he is not only violent with you, he is violent with his own child. Because the court is going to protect the relationship between him and his child. So yeah, sometimes I do think it can go against the client's best interest when they're just pushing for supervised visits. And I can't get the court to explain why this person should have a supervised visit. And I'm just going to be frank with you. I'm going to tell you, I don't think you should ask for supervised visits. I think we should do something different. And I think there are some, Shannon, what do you mean? I think there are some situations where sometimes we have to, as lawyers, we have to talk our clients. We have to be the one that's rational, because our clients are always going to be the one that's emotional. So we have to kind of make them understand that this is how court works. This is what the judge is going to do. This is what the law says we have to prove. And if we can't prove that, then we don't need to try to prove that, because I can't, it's highly unlikely that I'm going to get you what you want. And I have to weigh that against even asking for it, because I don't want to put you in a worse position. Okay, so I think that's it. On the next Facebook Live show, we're going to talk about grandparents visitation, because I get a lot of questions about that. And I think there are some recent changes, and there are lots of myths about grandparents visitation. So the next thing we're going to talk about is grandparents visitation. And I thank you all for joining our first Facebook Live show. And I hope to see you on the next Tuesday when we talk about grandparents visitation. And as always, if you need us, call us 901-410-5500. Have a good night, guys. Bye.